Alright everyone, let's talk quadratic functions and their different forms. So we should know their forms, so this should be somewhat review for us, but let's just write their forms out so we know, so we remember them. So here we have three different forms of quadratic functions, starting with, and that's a little sloppy, so I'll try that again, starting with standard form. Then we have factored form. And finally, I'm going to kind of go away from the practice right here and go to vertex form. Now, just the reason why I write these out is because I just want to show you what can be given from each of these forms, right? Or what key features you can take away from them. Starting with standard form, you can get two things just by looking at it with doing zero math at all. You can get concavity, and then you could also get the y-intercept. So those are the two key features that you can get without doing any math at all. In factored form, you again can get concavity, which again just tells you whether it's concave up or down, right? Whether the arrows are going towards positive infinity or negative infinity, right? And then in factored form, you find you can find the x-intercepts. Right. Finally, we have vertex form, which you can find three things. We're going to mainly talk about one thing, but you can find three things: concavity, the vertex, and because you know the vertex, you can also find the axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry. So those are the key factors you can find from each form. The one thing that I want us to notice is that you can find concavity in all of these without even doing any math at all. Okay, so now that we kind of reviewed standard form, factored form, and vertex form, let's look at the problems that we have for today. And if we need to refer back to this, we can refer back to it, or we can have it memorized. Let's go back to these problems here, starting with number 1. What we want to do is look at a function, or look at different functions, and then match the graph to them, right? So we're looking at the graph or the functions, and we are going to try to see, okay, well, which function could possibly be this graph, right? So let's eliminate some first. Let's talk about different ones, right? Let's first notice that we are in factored form, right? And if I wanted to go back here and write factored form, I could. Factored form should look something like this. F of x equals a x minus r1, x minus r2. R1 and r2 being the roots. And notice how it says x minus r1 and x minus r2. We can think of that as the opposite of, right? So now when we see that, we can think of the opposite of, and that will give us our roots or our x-intercepts or our zeros, right? So now that we kind of saw factored form, we're going to look here and we're going to say, okay, well, we can find concavity. If the a value is negative, it's concave down. If the a value is positive, it's concave up. So let's look at this here. We have a concave up graph here. And again, if you're still being confused on whether it's up or down, or the concavity is up or down, I like to think of it, okay, I see the u, then this would be up, right? UP, up, right? So then that tells me that it's concave up. So I know I can already eliminate the f of x with the negative a value. So I don't even have to worry about checking the roots for that one. So let's just start with this first one here and go ahead and check these roots. If I'm going to check the roots, these roots here are 2, 0 and 8, 0. Again, because like I said, we're going to take the opposite of. However, if we notice, these roots are negative 8, 0 and negative 2, 0. Therefore, this one is also not right. Right? Even though it's concave up, we know that the roots are not matching. We can also see that these roots are not matching for the same reason. Therefore, it has to be that one. Okay, so that's kind of looking at the matching a graph with factored form. Now we are going to look at one with vertex form. And again, if we're not sure what vertex form is, we're going to go ahead and go off here to the side and write down vertex form. So I'm going to go over here, and I'll just keep this light green here, and we're going to say f of x equals a x in parentheses. This is, well, x1 squared plus y1. And those are the x and y value of the vertex. Okay, so that's the x and y value. Sometimes it's not x1 and y1. Actually, most commonly, it would be h and k. Sorry for that confusion. It's actually most commonly h and k. Okay, so now looking there, that's what the vertex form looks like. Let's go here. And now let's try to match this graph with the function below, with the vertex form of a function below. Looking here, again, we know it's concave up, so we can cancel this one out right here, because that would be concave down. Now we want to look at our h and k value, and we're just going to go straight to trying to match it. So I'm going to go ahead and pick out this vertex, or look at this vertex right here with 4, 2. So I'm going to try to find that same h and k. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it's the opposite of what's inside the parentheses, and then it's the same as what outside the parentheses is. So if we look at this first one here, this would be 4, 2. Notice how I had to take the opposite of what's inside that parentheses. And you'll notice, hey, those match. So we can go ahead and circle that. Now, I would, just in case it was like multiple answers, I would just go ahead and check these other ones. I would go ahead and check that. Okay, that's +2. Obviously, the x value is not +2. Again, +2. So we could cancel those out if we want to. Sticking with this, going with the odds pattern, right? So I did 1, 3, and now going to 5. We're going to go here with standard form. Standard form is probably the most common one, the one that we are most familiar with, but I'll go ahead and write it down anyways in this lovely gold color. We have f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And again, whether that a is negative or positive will tell us the concavity. And then the c value will tell us the y-intercept. So if we're going here, this is concave down. And just like the helpful hint for concave up, I do have a helpful hint for concave down, right? Kind of looks like n, which if you write out the word down, boom, right? So that should kind of help you with concavity if you're still struggling with that. Hopefully not, but if you are. So this is concave down, so we actually are looking for a negative a. Therefore, we could cancel out 2 of them with the positive a values. And now we are just going to look at the y-intercept, which in this case is 0, 4. So now we are going to look at the c value that has a +4. Obviously, it's not this one. There it is. So that is kind of matching the quadratic forms with a particular graph for us, right? Using the key features or finding the key features. We're going to go here, and again, sticking with the odd numbers, right? Doing 1, 3, and 5. Here we are going to just write down, here is specific features or specific points of a graph or of a function, and you are just going to tell me what form you could write this in. You're actually not going to write the function out. We'll learn that in later lessons, but we are just going to write the form that we would use. So hopefully knowing the keywords, right, like vertex, would tell you this would be, you are going to use the vertex form, right? Saying the y-intercept would tell you to use standard form. And then finally saying roots, which maybe that's a little less common for you guys, but then you would use factored form. Roots is like the same thing as saying x-intercepts or zeros. So again, this should kind of help you guys, and again, this should be a little bit of review. This is kind of to introduce the new introduce quadratic forms to get us into the more advanced lessons that are to come in the next couple days. So hopefully this is a little bit of review. What I want you guys to do is go ahead and finish all the even numbers, and then there'll be a practice or a homework for you guys to give you guys a little bit more practice on patterns. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact me in any way, and then we can try to work things out. But hopefully this video was a little bit helpful for you, and I will see you guys on Tuesday.